right, we can go ahead and get meeting started. Start with roll call.
Jeremy Moyna.
Ben Keel.
Tom Marzlick.
Michelle Otto.
Lloyd Johnson.
Go ahead.
Kevin Triplett.
Deb Belter.
Shannon Sweeney.
Wendy Manson.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and start with Shannon.
You guys might have to slide out, like, you might have to come over here. This is not.
I'll just give you a brief introduction. Shannon works for David Drown and Associates. I have worked with him on numerous occasions in other cities, and he is here to do a presentation on the EDA. Councilmember Marzluck and I met with him already, and we're trying to revamp our EDA program. So Shannon's just going to talk about that a little bit tonight.
Sure. Mayor, members of council, nice to meet you. I live just outside of Waconia. Been working for David Drown Associates for, this is my 19th year. We do public finance work and economic development related work for cities, counties, and townships. Deb and Tom invited me to an initial meeting just to talk a little bit about economic development in general. And I've worked with some communities and counties on just, doing what you're talking about doing, which is kind of providing some focus on what you want to do or be involved in economic development. It can mean a lot of different things. And so we have a short presentation and an exercise for you to complete at your leisure following the presentation. So we'll kind of dive into it. I just have a few slides we're going to talk about. So, our first important thing to do is determine what our approach is as a community and how we intend to be involved. It's easy to just say we're active in economic development without necessarily knowing what that means or what kind of things we intend to provide locally or do locally. It can mean a variety of things for, how much you spend on the activity, how you staff it, and those kinds of things. So how are we going to help define that? We're going to talk a bit about providing a general understanding of what economic development services are. In this presentation, we're going to identify economic development services that are important to your community, and we're going to discuss and identify how we would intend to provide those services, if there's some things that we decide we should offer locally. And so, just to give you a little background on economic development, in general, it's always been defined as a promotion of business recruitment, retention, and expansion. So we're working with local businesses to expand, to stay in the community, and on occasion when we can recruit a business, we try to be good at that as well as a community organization. In recent times, that's been expanded to both housing and workforce development. I see economic development entities and communities that are real active in housing, both in owning and promoting housing opportunities in their community, well as conducting housing studies and those sorts of things to analyze demand locally in order to recruit developers to their community to provide meet specific housing needs. How is this typically provided? Governments have HRAs and EDAs. You have an EDA, I believe it consists of the members of the council. It was likely created to build a public facility in the community and not used much after that, perhaps. And so,
You're correct.
okay, and so EDAs have the ability, it's an Economic Development Authority is what it stands for, it has the ability, it's almost like a planning commission, it's a separate entity that's created by the council, or it can be the council that serves as the EDA, have some powers that they can exercise to build some public facilities. So sometimes we see them created by cities for that purpose and then not used for much else. So, but you do have the ability to budget and levy taxes for economic development. You have the ability to issue bonds for economic development projects. You have the ability to purchase, and sell land for economic development projects, which is a little bit different power than the city council has, because you can purchase and develop land for speculative development, where council has more limited authority when they buy and sell land and the process they have to go through to do that. You also have the ability to serve as a limited partner. I've never seen anybody use that power, but it's there in state statute. So that focus, I've been at this for, before working for David Drown, I worked for cities as an economic development director. And I've seen that focus change over time on what people did with their budgeted dollars or staff time that they devoted to economic development. We used to say there used to be a lot of smokestack chasing where the focus on the economic development budget and time was on recruiting large businesses from outside of the community. I remember some organizations had staff that would get on an airplane and fly to Chicago or to a national trade show and have a booth and spend hundreds of dollars on the booth plus thousands of dollars on promotional materials and meet folks and try to encourage them to come to their community. That I don't think was terribly effective use of funds or time in that it didn't seem to bear a lot of fruit. We didn't see a lot of recruiting that turned into new businesses in the community. And so over time that focus changed. The second kind of wave of activity that I saw in economic development early on was called enterprise facilitation, which was working with focusing most of your time and budget on the earliest stages of business development. So working with the guy in a garage that has an idea on wanting to do something and figuring out a way to help that person grow their business idea and turn it into something that was employed more people, created tax base and jobs in the community. So, that was all well and good. Both of those were interesting things, but we kind of fall back on a statistic, and I updated this from when I talked to Tom and Deb, because there's a statistic in an article I sent them today on economic development that was updated that said 72% of new jobs in economic activity are created by businesses or people already located within your community. We used to say 80%, but the article today from the U of M said 72%, so I'll stick with 72% for now. So most of the stuff, the good stuff, the new jobs, the new tax base, comes from folks that are already, kind of within our area. And so being really good at working with those people is probably something that's far better than focusing a lot of money, time, and effort on recruitment. And so, and frankly, being good at working with your business community doesn't have to take a ton of money, staff time. A lot of this stuff can be done with volunteer activity. And so I was just going to talk about that a little bit as we go through this. Business retention expansion services usually mean annual site visits to local businesses by a group of volunteers. It can be local revolving loan fund administration. I'm not sure if you folks have a revolving loan fund, but many communities have recycled money from old state of Minnesota grants into a revolving loan fund that's available to loan in the community.
Minnesota Investment Fund.
Yep. So, dollars like those are available to spend locally or provide loans locally for businesses. Technical assistance, grant writing, financial packaging, vendor recruitment, infrastructure expansion, subsidy requests, those kinds of things are often local services that are available. And one that I always point to as facilitation of the government process. Having somebody in the community that can take somebody by the hand and lead them through the government process for expanding their business can be a pretty important service. Invariably, somebody's going to need a building permit. They'll probably need a conditional use permit. We start adding on the list of permits that folks need in order to do something, and it can be a frustrating and daunting task for a new business. And so having somebody that's available to help guide them through that process can be a pretty valuable service. And other economic development services can be community promotion, special events, program creation, advertising. Some of those things may overlap with what the Chamber of Commerce does in their services that are already provided by your Chamber of Commerce. But as far as business recruitment services, we talked about that site visits, trade shows, mass mailing, advertising. I'm not a huge fan of any of those. I just don't see them being worth the cost in many instances. But What I do find is that on occasion you do have opportunities when people pass through your community, particularly on a nice corridor like you're on, that want to do something. And having the ability to collect information locally on labor force, utility rates, available sites, existing vacant buildings, those kinds of things, and having that readily available that you can communicate to somebody with a business idea can be a pretty effective means of locating new businesses in your community. So having that information available in a pretty usable format, even available on your website, can be very helpful to folks that have an idea or are looking for a location to do something. Again, that facilitation of the governmental process comes into play. There are state loans available, some grants available for businesses that are expanding or relocating, and having a resource to point to some of those things or assist in that process can be pretty helpful to new businesses. As far as housing development services are concerned, project development, the vast majority of housing activity focus on affordability. Housing services can be technical assistance, market analysis, conducting a housing study every couple of years to find out where the voids are in your local market in order to promote construction of new housing types that meet those open voids. Financial packaging, infrastructure, expansion, again, subsidy requests, tax increment financing, all those kinds of things. And again, back to that facilitation of the governmental process. Some of the communities that I've worked in that have seen a lot of success are folks that understand they want to assist projects in moving through the process with either a fast no or a fast yes. Sometimes fast no's are pretty helpful too to folks in keeping their frustration to a minimum. So, and then project administration in general. Miscellaneous services that I see economic development entities get involved in. Community centers, that building project that you may have done in the past, a fire station or a city hall where you created an EDA, that's a purpose that, EDAs serve on occasion. We have policy development. I don't know if you have a tax increment financing or a tax abatement policy on the books, but those are things an EDA can assist with. Having your business subsidy policy updated, revolving loan fund development and implementation, if you need to revamp your application or guidelines. Those are things that an economic development authority can focus on. Again, to get things up to date to reflect the goals of the council as they are today, and to help people efficiently move through the process and be aware of things that you're willing to do as a community. The other one is workforce development and job training, promoting links between educational resources and businesses. Article I shared with Tom and Deb today focused on Cottage Grove that had done something to that effect in linking their local school system to employers that needed new employees. And we're looking to have that link on a school to work program with the local schools. And so, just being an advocate for things like that, especially in the current labor market, can be pretty valuable for businesses. And then there's unique activities that come along. I've seen a county economic development authority that managed a short line railroad. So it's kind of a catch-all at times for special projects in the community. And an EDA can be the entity that, has the time to devote sufficient energy to some of those special tasks that you might want to undertake that the council, may not have the time for. So. Other standard services, planning, administration, building inspection can fall under economic development, but typically they're already in place in separate departments. So again, that was meant to be a bit of an overview of economic development in general, just a brief discussion on services that can be provided. Ultimately, what we wanted to do was distribute a survey to the council that helps to identify goals that you might have for economic development, if any, and we would collect that information in a survey instrument that we've used before in asking questions in some of those different areas: housing, business recruitment, business retention, to seeing what might be important to the council. And we would collect that data through the survey, compile the information and present it back to you so you can see what other folks on the council and in the community feel about economic development. Maybe there's some priorities, maybe not, but it's an opportunity to identify some of those if they are, and it will help bring some focus to what you may want to do with economic development. There's options to keep the EDA as it is, being the council. It could turn into a different organization that has, at a minimum, 2 council people, but has other folks from the community that focus on some specific tasks that you feel are important. One of the most important ones that I would tell you is that business retention strategy with regard to meeting with local businesses on a regular basis, identifying barriers to growth that they have, and if there's opportunities to help eliminate those barriers, those are projects that an EDA can work on. Again, that's mostly a volunteer effort, if not completely. It doesn't cost you anything with regard to staff time necessarily, and it's something that frankly is a good loyalty program for your existing businesses, and if you learn to work well with your existing businesses, you're going to work really well with new businesses that express interest in your community, because you're already going to have had those conversations and practice in working with your business community. So I'll pass out the survey, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the information I've provided. It would be nice if we could get surveys back towards the end of the week. And again, my pledge to you is that I'll compile those, present the information to the council, and continue the discussion based on what I see in the survey. Feel free to add comments to the back. If you think economic development is important, say that. If you don't think it's important and don't think the city should be involved in it, say that too. We want everybody's opinion, because we want to know what's important to you folks in spending time and energy on any activity, particularly with volunteers. We don't want to waste volunteer time.
Are there quite a few communities now that's kind of getting on it at EDA?
No.
Because I've run across a couple of communities that said that it didn't do any good, so they don't really. But then I've been in some communities where it does a lot, but with us here, we've just never been able to generate anything really.
We used to have a very strong EDA program. Before you were on the council, it was a very strong EDA here. They, I think it was organized when they built the community center. And it was, they helped carpentry contractors, which was ABC. That's when we did the Minnesota Investment Fund. They did that. They helped a couple other businesses get started. We have a loan out right now to one of the businesses in town. So we had a strong EDA.
How did we lose it?
You didn't have the staff anymore. The city administrator was gone and Joe Faust left. So you had nobody to do it anymore.
I worked with Joe Faust. I thought she's top notch, does nice work. So
It was hard for me to find things that weren't a priority or a high priority on that list.
I understand.
Of course, I have
It's
selfish interest in
yeah,
it.
and even if you think most of the things are important, we can sure identify most of the activities as being important. But what we would work towards is identifying the initial things that are easy to become involved in, and folks are interested in volunteering time to do, because frankly, it does rely on a fair amount of volunteer time without staffing, and
Sure.
so.
Unless you'll eat an elephant one bite at a time, kind of.
Yeah, and frankly, if you pick some, we call it low-hanging fruit, that's easy to accomplish something, it builds confidence, and people tend to, devote more time to things that they see some results from. So.
Yeah, you see some successes, people are
Yep.
interested.
I know they used to visit businesses too, didn't they? They came and visited carpenter, or craft pattern, didn't they?
Yeah, a good number of years ago, yes.
Yeah, when Joe and
Yep.
Barb or something.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing that.
Yeah, we're gonna work on getting that set up. and-
Yeah, they went from, they picked a couple every so many months and went visiting.
The other thing that we want to do is we know that it's been in existence over 25 years, but we can't find an enabling resolution for it. And so we want to basically start over again, and Shannon said he can help us with that. So we're kind of starting over from scratch and developing our EDA program.
I have drafts, I give the city drafts of enabling resolutions. I thought it was important to go through at least this short exercise to identify, do we want to change the nature of the organization from just the council, or do we want to keep it just the council? Either way, it's important to think about that and provide feedback. And from there, that helps you draft that enabling resolution so you know what you're going to set about to do initially anyway. So there are some, size, who's a member, at least 2 are council members, but beyond that, it can be, I think, 3, 5, or 7 members, those sorts of things, I think we would work through, so.
We must have had 7, because remember when we had Tony and John Marvin? So ours must have originally been 7 to 5 council and 2 extra.
Yeah, I think the more business people are involved, the better off they are.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, right.
They
absolutely.
have a tendency to drink their own bathwater if it's just the council.
Yeah, that's right.
And frankly, when it's just the council, I'll give you my opinion, whether you want it or not in this instance, but when it's just the council, you guys have lots of other stuff you're dealing with on a regular basis. An economic development authority is meant just to focus on economic development activities. And so, if there's a few tasks that we put before them, they're gonna have real focus on just those few tasks, and they're gonna be able to complete them. The council, you have stuff that comes up, all the time. You got a lot on your plate, and so having that ability to have an organization that focuses just specifically on that stuff can be beneficial if you want it to be.
When we had the businesses here before, Tony and John, the one concern that they had, one of the reasons why they were kind of disappointed and left, is because all the information came to the council and then them, so they didn't feel like they were a part of it. So, if it is, that's one thing, having the whole council. That's a downfall.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
then the businesses don't feel as involved as
I
they
think you
should.
will stand on that, yeah.
Right.
But another reason why one of them left that I know of is when we did come up with ideas, we didn't have the money.
That's
Because, we went around offering people to have the first right when they were going to decide to sell or something, give them a check like for $100 or something. I know one person said, well, gee, we don't have the money to be buying this property. How do we get over that?
Those are things we work on all the time as public finance people. So how to structure a project to accomplish it. So, frankly, we could be a resource if you had questions on stuff like that. How do we fund it? We're certainly aware of all of the state and federal programs that are brought to bear locally, and we're aware of what cities have done in order to implement projects, and so we can talk to you about some of those things as needed. But, let me tell you that it doesn't take a lot of funding to be good at economic development. It just takes some devoted time by community members, and, if it's important, folks will devote time, and if it isn't considered a priority, then won't. And so it's kind of that simple.
And one thing we have going for us is the chamber is very interested in working with us too, so that helps.
Did we ever have a brochure, City of Montrose brochure related to EDA?
Not just EDA, no. Well, the EDA did I shouldn't say that. The EDA did a small, like a video or whatever you want to call it, that was out on our website. So if you were an interested business that wanted to come into town, you could go out on our website and click on it. And it was, they had interviewed a couple different business people in town. So it was, I think it was previous to you guys even. That was on the council. But they'd interviewed, like, at that time, the owner of the Citizen State Bank was Bertie Jackson. They had interviewed her. I think they had talked to maybe somebody from ABC or somewhere. They had talked to one of the council members was in it. Talked to the school. So it was kind of a promotional video type thing that you go out and watch.
Yeah.
And that was for the EDA. The EDA had done that. And it's,
Yeah, because I'm thinking of something like tying in right technical and all that, you know, because you talk about workforce and education and workforce, that's a prime organization we have to help us out there.
yeah, I don't know how they did it for us, but I know it was through the EDA they did it.
Yeah.
I know Miles just put something together because Dwayne Northigan had given us a business that was interested in coming to town. So he put something together quickly about what you're talking about, just some of the statistics about Montrose and I think he did actually put sites that were available in that brochure, so.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of stuff we need. I'll have to talk to him about getting a copy of that to see.
Yeah, so I'll email him for you.
Okay, if no more
Awesome.
questions, just fill out the survey if you would. I'll collect them from Deb, and we'll set up a time to be on a council agenda just to present the information and talk about how we would want to proceed, so.
Sounds good, thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, under old business, discussion of Carver Field. You guys want to do this? What do you want?
I just was asked to put it on.
It was tabled
for
from the
discussion.
council meeting.
Right. So inside your package, you'll see the grant, the Twins grant. And the only reason it's on was tabled is because the Park and Rec Commission did not want to be a part of the concession portion of it, so it was up to the council to decide. I know that you have the grant, you can have a discussion on whatever you feel is necessary.
So that means we were approved for the,
We did not get the Twins grant, we're not even going after that until next year.
And-
because they want some revenue, facts and figures. on
Yep, they need
concessions.
accurate documentation of it. And
How far back?
Pardon?
How far back?
I don't believe it says how far back.
No, it doesn't say.
I didn't see that in there.
No.
I can tell you that after reviewing the grant application with Wayne and Wendy, we won't be able to do a concession stand with this. We had talked about doing that. It's not for that. It's for field.
Dugouts
Field.
or
Yeah.
field
It's the field
improvements?
improvements, yeah, right.
Which would be fencing or?
We need
So
to
the
backstop.
concession stand
We do
is
the
still
backstop.
no big deal, and we can just do that on our own if we wanted to.
Right.
Well, we can
That's-
apply for the grant if we can do, because we need a new backstop.
Yep.
Mhm.
Wayne's
Dugouts need
Fencing
work.
down the
Right,
lines.
yeah, just from
Right.
the field.
Just the main field.
We looked it over last week, it's gonna take a lot of stuff to get the field estimate, should we?
We have to make
We're gonna put
improvements.
some new bases out there and wanna fix
Anchor
it.
them
Yeah, I wanna fix the dugouts, maybe take all that excess tin sticking out the back off, paint them.
in, new storage area.
Yeah, and we're just gonna fix that up for now.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing they need to know is what investments we're gonna put into it, you know.
See,
But
we
it's
have
still not
to,
gonna be big enough Kirby for you
No.
guys, right?
So that's the discussion.
No.
We have a field.
That's kind of the discussion we need to have, is how much money do we really want to stick into this field?
Right.
Because nobody's going to ever play on it other than Little League.
That's right.
I mean, you guys have your softball tournament, and the Carver family has a softball tournament. Beyond that, it's only used by Little League. And our goal was to have the regional park at some time become our ball fields. So how much money do we really want to stick into this field? Other than, I mean, we need to get a backstop, we need to fix some of the fencing and stuff so the kids can play on it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there and they need to play on it, that's what it's there for.
Well,
But-
yeah, and I think we need to keep the ice rink off of there.
Yes,
I agree with you.
absolutely.
I was gonna just mention that.
Especially in the outfield, because it totally wrecked the grass last year.
It brought all kinds of clay and stuff in the infield too, so it's.
Yep. And that's what's really
We have
ruined the
lights out in
field.
the park out here, where they used to have the rink. You can put it there. Do
Where
we
they
have
used to have the
summer-
rink where you
Lines.
don't want it because it
Well,
throws
lines,
it from
it used to be,
space.
but, well, the difference was
Well,
is that they
we got
used to,
enough time to fix the grass. I'm not sure.
the other problem was is they used to just pile up the snow and then flood it on the grass.
Right.
And until everything melted, so all the grass was dead. Now they put down a rink with plastic, and they can literally pump the water off into the storm sewer. So they can get it off of there in time, it doesn't kill the grass like it did years ago, where it was this big, empty, black dirt spot.
Yeah, when you put it up after the grass is dormant, it's not as damaging.
Right, and you take it back down before and there's, like he said, there's lights. Because by putting it in the infield, it's ruining that field.
Well, and the reason why we are making this a priority is because we have to have documentation. Wayne's going to keep documentation of what repairs we do and what they cost. In order to apply for the grant, we have to have that. So that was part of why it was put on the agenda. I wasn't at that closed meeting, so I'm not sure if there's anything else that needs to be discussed with it.
The big thing too is that, like they said, is how much do you want to put into it? I mean, it is, especially the fencing, that's not cheap to do. Especially backstops, those are usually more expensive because of how high they are and what they have to do.
Well, I can tell you that when Wendy and I discussed it today, we had talked about putting a nice concession stand at this park, but we decided, should we be doing that? Should that money not be saved to go towards the regional park? Because that was the
Good
goal.
utilization. Yeah, I think it's good, just close it down.
You're not from Montrose, so the little bit of the
Yes, I
history.
am. I'm from Montrose.
You are now, but
Yes.
you've been here for a year. So a little bit of the history on the field out there, the kids are waiting, I'm ready to get out there. It's full. We stopped there yesterday on my way back into town, and I have parents already asking if they can get in there, and they're more than willing to maintain that field. Because that field is used all summer long, from the minute the snow is
The
melted.
question wasn't the field.
Yeah, we're,
Right, but
it's
you're saying shut things down.
The concession stand.
not
Well,
redo that.
Right, I mean, sure, we could do that too, but again, I'm out there for 20 years now, and 4 days a week. And the whole history, I mean, Wendy even knows the history. If you hit a ball outside, out of bounds or whatever, you go and you fetch it and you come back and you get a piece of candy. That's what it's all about. That's what the field is all about, is just having families come and gather around and just have fun. It's not to make money, it's not to do anything else, it's just to get families to come and enjoy a popcorn or candy or whatever is there. That's what the field is. It's not about, anything else.
Yeah, but I don't think any of us on the council should be exchanging money when it comes to doing the concession stand. I think we need to stay clear and avoid any appearance of impropriety.
So how does that work for Kirby's tournament then?
He's buying a license.
So do I.
His organization
Right,
is buying a per day license to do that, right?
and so does
And,
a
and,
third party.
and the money is all theirs,
Yep.
right? That's all theirs, they
Yep.
deal with it, right?
Mhm.
We don't need city involvement, city government involvement in exchanging funds through the concession stand. Even though you buy a license, I don't think you should be buying licenses for that. If some independent person wants to come in and run a concession stand, cool.
It is an
No problem
independent
with that.
person.
You?
No,
Who?
it's my daughter that runs it. Who's been,
That's still.
I mean, I get that too, but like I said, and the only reason that is because that's where we grew up there. That's it,
When my kids played ball, parents brought things to share after the game.
Oh, they still do.
So
Yep,
what
they
do
still
you
do.
need a concession stand for?
I just explained that to you. It's because the
Because
kids,
if they get a foul ball outside. the
because
fence,
they
a
like
piece
to
of
just
candy.
come and, the kids even come in and help out.
Well,
I mean, sure, we can shut it down
we
and I'll
can
just
take
say,
a vote
well,
on
let's,
it.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
we'll just shut it down. I mean, that's fine.
Telling you where I
Well,
stand.
one of the things, the motion on the floor, or I shouldn't say on the floor, but the motion that was made years ago was nonprofit organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not nonprofit, so unless you're gonna change that, because right now, she's not a nonprofit organization.
Right, and
She's
if
not
you-
running it as an organization.
Right, and if you recall, she did present again back when Greg was mayor.
When she was a Girl Scout.
No, because she hasn't been a girl, she's gonna be 20 years old. So it's been a while.
Yeah, because she was a Girl Scout of one. She was a troop
Yeah.
of one. And that's
Back when
when
she was 16, 17 years old, correct?
that's when she came and said she was gonna run it as a Girl Scout. Because it came up then again, because you guys were running it and we didn't know anybody was a
Right.
Girl Scout. And you said, she's a Girl Scout, she's a
Yeah.
troop of one.
Yeah.
So I don't think that motion was ever rescinded.
I thought it was, because she would normally come back to,
Park and Rec. She's never
Park and
come
Rec.
back. Huh? I
she would
would
come
say-
back to Park and Rec.
But it never came to council. I'm almost sure that motion is still standing. I don't,
Maybe.
I mean, I just,
Could be.
I just
Yeah,
don't
I
wanna
mean-
get in trouble.
No, I get it. Definitely could be, so.
I guess moving forward, they need to be a nonprofit 501c3 or equivalent, and that's that. I mean, if the motion is out, if that's what's out there, is that it's supposed to be a 501c3. I mean,
Well, I don't know if they even specified that. I think they just said a nonprofit organization, which was like, because remember it was the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts when it started.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Boy Scouts, after it got broke into twice, the Boy Scouts didn't be there anymore.
Right.
So the
right.
Girl Scouts did it for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, isn't the National Boy Scouts and the National Girl
Yeah, I think
Scouts,
they're,
I mean,
yeah, they're 501c3s.
pretty sure they would have those 501c3.
Yeah, because they all operate. under them.
Documentation.
Yeah, they operate.
So-
under the main thing,
Mhm.
but-
What was the reasoning that they had it go to a nonprofit? only a
After the
nonprofit
Carvers,
done
after the Carvers retired from there and they shut down the softball association.
Yep.
Then it came before the council. The Boy Scouts, I think, came to the council and asked if they could open it back up and run it. It was still in the old brick building.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they made a motion to allow,
The boosters ran it.
or the boosters.
The boosters.
Yeah, they made a motion to allow them to run it as a nonprofit organization to run it. And that was back with Charlie Nelson, when he was mayor, so it's been a ways back.
Mhm.
And I don't know that was ever changed. I thought it was still nonprofit.
Back with Charlie?
Well, then it came before Greg, but your daughter then, I thought, was still a Girl Scout with the troop. And I don't think it ever came back to the council after that.
I don't know.
So,
I know she's been to many Park and Rec and council meetings.
yeah, but they never brought it, it never came to the council from Park and Rec either. And they didn't really have the authority to, I mean, it had been changed as a motion by the council.
Right.
Or where it should have been changed.
Yep.
So I think it just needs to be straightened out as to who's gonna run it and how it's gonna be run, or, so that we're not doing anything not legal. Or I shouldn't say not legal, but not kosher.
Questionable.
Well, I do think that the field does need to be just a facelift. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there should be something done with the concession stand too, just so that there's some form of running water there. I mean, just so that it's a little better, but it is, Michelle's right though, that's been a centerpiece of Montrose for, I mean, since Eddie Carver started working on the field 50 years ago, so, I mean, and if we do the softball field and baseball field out at the regional park, how long is it gonna be till then?
I don't know.
I know, I'm not directly asking how long, but I mean, that could be 15 or 20 years. So then we're saying for 15 or 20 years, we're gonna deal with what we have now down there, and that's it. I mean,
Right now, what we have is a person who's pretty passionate about helping the city upgrade that field, and she has been for quite some time, doing her own time, her own money, and willing to give it back to the city. So,
But we haven't gotten any back from her, that's the other thing.
well, right, because it's gone back into replacing what's been broken, you know, the new cooler was $250 that was purchased in there. What else is in there? The refrigerators that are in there, you know, that's where money goes to. I mean, everybody uses it, Kirby uses it, Carvers use it, you know, so,
But I think even if we just even if you just kept track of that,
Oh, I mean, she's
And-
more than willing to give
If-
what, to show
and
everything.
do it that way,
Yes,
so that we have something to show.
Yep.
Because then we can show that even. I mean, even though it's not, we're not building a concession stand, but we can show that we have put money into this field in some way, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's always more than willing to do whatever.
I'm not
You know,
against, I
and-
mean, I'm not all against the concession stand being open, I just don't think we wanna stick, we don't wanna stick $50,000 into this building,
No.
you know, for something that's not gonna be there forever.
Well, wasn't it the discussion to move that building out and put a different building in there?
Well, that's my point, though, that would be 50, Wayne thought probably even closer to 75,000 by the time you
We
get it.
thought that's money that could go to the regional park, so we weren't sure.
Right, but like Kirby just said, the regional park, that's in 15 years. And right now, what we,
But we don't know that though, too. I mean, we
Right,
could,
we don't.
we could fill up our industrial parks here in 3 years, and then, you know, businesses pay, let's just say a substantial,
Sponsorships, yeah.
larger amount of taxes, now our tax base goes up. Some of them, you know, for advertisement, do write-offs, you know, hey,
Sure.
I'll sponsor the building for that.
Where is this industrial park?
We have 2 industrial parks. Have you been to the west end of
Yeah,
town
but
or
they're
the east end?
individually owned.
Yeah, but
There's been people trying to come into this one that I know of, and because that guy just got such a, you know, such a high price.
yeah,
Nobody
but I'm
wants to
saying
come
like
in.
we could.
Yeah,
We could.
we should have bought that out there.
Well,
We
that's
should've- we should've took
hindsight.
a couple $1 million
That's
bond
hindsight,
out
yeah.
and bought that so that we could do like Delano.
Well, we
When
can't,
business
we can't
comes-
go back 20
Yeah,
years.
that's
and
hindsight,
make
that's
the
hindsight.
change. It's, what Ben's saying though is that the possibility's there that they fill up the industrial parks and we
Sure.
get the money to do it. But last I checked, the plan for the baseball, softball, and field out there and the concession stand was well over $1 million to do all that. The lights itself cost about $1 million.
Well, the field costs pretty close to $1 million.
Well, just putting a field up, you could do a field for 50,000 and it'd be just fine, but you put lights up, I mean, that's where your big expense comes, is the lights, because those are not cheap to get those poles.
Well, in order to build a field though to your specifications, it takes
We
more
have
than
a field.
$50,000.
You could make a baseball field that's high school quality with $50,000 if you wanted to do it.
How come Loretto had to spend so much money on theirs? Because they have tournaments and stuff?
Theirs is a lot different with their lights and with them being down in the middle of a bowl where they have to do special drainage and all their fencing that they put fencing all around the field. So, and their new backstop, plus they're trying to do stuff on the hill, costs a little extra to do that stuff.
But wouldn't we have to have a backstop and a fence too around the ball field?
Yep.
So, costs a lot of money.
But the field's there.
Huh?
The field is there, it's all graded.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, there's gonna be spots that need to be filled in, but it's there, the grass is growing.
Oh, yeah.
So now you come back and you cut out the diamond and you put up the backstop and the fencing. You know, you're probably looking at a couple $100,000, but to just, without lights.
Yeah, for both fields, yes.
Yeah. So you know, that's where you start and then you can go from there. And if we start putting our money back from our LGA that we were putting there to begin with, that we pulled out for Highway 25 for a year or two, and now we'll put it back there again. And it'll build up again, but
My thought is just that if we're not gonna start doing some of those things of cutting it out, start putting fence up on even just one softball field or the baseball field out there, something along those lines, in the next couple of years, people are going to be more upset that nothing was done to give a facelift to Carver Field because we're saving it to maybe do something out there in time, and I think that's
I think
just.
there's no discussion that we'll do a facelift to Carver Field.
yeah.
It's just the concession stand building is, you know, is the point of
Yeah.
this conversation. There's no question about, you know, working on the backstop and making it, you know, doing some upkeeps to it.
so basically, the bottom line of the discussion is, are you guys willing to let this third-party person run the concession stands, purchasing the license themselves, purchasing all of the product that goes into it, and then showing the profits to Wendy at the end?
Why can't there be just like a rental agreement? If we have to waive a fee, we can waive the fees at that point in
Right,
time.
fill out the form.
But
That's
if it's a rental agreement, then it doesn't matter what they're making off of anybody, whether it's me or her or the Carvers, whoever. If there's a rental agreement, why does it matter what they're making in there? As long as we just have the proof that says, yes, they have it reserved these days, this is whatever fee we charged or the reason we waived the fee, and then we're done.
That's entirely up to you guys.
Well, that's what Park and Rec's recommendation was have it treated just like any other park. Whoever, and if the third party fills out the form and says we're gonna have it from April to August, that's a little longer than necessary, but, and this is what we're doing. If there's the fee, and then it goes back to the council, and the council waives the fee, so be it.
What you pay by the day, Kirby,
We
Yeah,
waive
for the
fee.
concession?
No, we don't pay this fee, he pays every year.
Yeah, for the
And
electricity.
you pay by the day?
Yeah, if you use the electricity, that's what it says in there, I believe. I haven't asked to waive the fee though.
Oh,
so.
yeah, if you come to the council, we waive it.
I haven't cared to ask to waive the fee. I'm using the field, so I'll just pay for it. I think last year I paid for both days, and then the second day I just said, put it towards the Carver's fee, so,
Yeah, we don't charge them because it's
yeah.
the Carver family.
It's the Carver field.
Who built the field. So we don't really charge them.
Yeah, it'll be a little tacky.
Yeah.
I don't see why that can't be the case. The rental agreement. I mean, and the only reason we put the fee in anyway was because of a blown out of proportion situation that happened with me a few years ago. And because there wasn't a fee before that, I don't believe.
No.
So I don't see why we can't. Would that give enough information for them if there was just rental agreements for people, and then they could just say, well, the city's not making the money off it other than this is what the rental stuff is, or this is why they're waiving the fee.
We wouldn't even have to mention it in the grant. You wouldn't have to mention that then.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just interested in avoiding any appearance of impropriety, so however you want to handle that from a fee standpoint or whatever, that's good to me.
I guess if she's willing, the third party is willing to fill out the documentation for a form, that would be the direction I feel that should be started down.
You guys have a motion? Do we need a motion for that?
I suppose it wouldn't hurt.
I think you should, because the motion right now is still as a nonprofit organization, so I think you should.
You should do something.
Yeah.
I will make a motion for the third party to fill out a,
Any third party.
any third party to fill out an application for rental of the Carver Field concession stand.
Second.
You want just the stand in there?
That's all, that's the only
That-
discussion.
That's what the discussion, I mean,
Okay,
discussion regarding the Carver Field concession stand.
okay. I'll second that.
Otherwise, the field's under the other stuff, all the other parks that are in town.
It's already been
Okay,
seconded.
okay.
Ben made it, Kirby seconded it, correct? Okay, Kirby,
Aye?
Ben,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Lloyd,
All right.
and I will abstain. So motion passes 4-0-1.
Okay, so is it to rent just the concession stand or to rent the whole field?
That was the concession stand because the
The
fields
concession
cover
stand,
under the
okay.
parks,
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And it's really the Buffalo Community Ed that's doing the field, it's just the third party that's doing the stand, so
Right.
that just, yeah.
As long as we're still on that topic, a parent did ask the gate that's over there, that's closed right now, if we could open up that gate, because they come in and then break it and break it. If it can be open.
We don't want anybody in until we get done. We're gonna put some diamond dust in there,
Okay.
raise all the diamonds, and we're gonna start working in there. So that's why we closed it, we want to keep everybody out.
Gotta raise the pins for the bases
Yeah,
and stuff.
we're gonna put new bases and everything in.
Because they're out there almost nightly right now.
We
starting
repaired
practice,
that lawnmower that's there for dragging.
Okay.
We're gonna fix that shut up so people can get in and out of there. And
Okay.
Gotta remove the bases when you drive them, people have been driving over them, our own guys are going over them and ripping them up. So
Okay.
you gotta remove them when you drive it, so
Okay, I'll let that,
whoever does
I'll
it.
let the dad know then. Okay.
Even if, I was gonna say, I think they used to take them out at night and put them like in that little shed. But just if everybody knew that's where, like the dads and stuff that do the practice, if they knew that's where they were, they could get them out and put them back
Yeah,
down. That way
put
they
it
could
in the
get drunk
tractor
if that's
shed or
okay.
anything in the shed too.
But that, like Wayne said, the ice rink has made it kind of sink, so we need to bring a bunch of
Yeah, it's gotta
lime.
really
It's
get
it's
dry.
really, we were out there last night, it's like,
Yeah, it's got
A lot
clay
of
and
clay
stuff.
and dirt can.
So we'll bring in some lime and stuff for the diamonds, sand.
okay. All right. Moving on, 707 Brook Circle muskrat infestation. How's that going?
After you had your last city council meeting, you discussed this, and Amy, our city attorney, came up with this ordinance amendment that we have to do, and then also the resolution that will allow the plugs to hunt the muskrats. What I have to do is, I have to have information to the paper by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if you approve this ordinance, I get that to the newspaper, they'll publish it on Thursday, and after it's published, then the plugs are allowed to start hunting the muskrats. There are stipulations, if you read the resolution, they do have to contact the DNR, and they have to follow the stipulations in the resolution, and I did forward those to Bruce, so she does have those, but,
There was one thing in here that I did have a question about.
okay,
It specifically says 12 gauge shotgun with bird shot in that thing, and we do not want to use a 12 gauge shotgun with bird shot.
I think that's right from the DNR.
Yeah, first of all, we don't have the 12 gauge shotgun, we have a 22 that we would use like bird shot for that. But if you have a 12 gauge with bird shot, you're gonna have a pretty large spray, and you have a pretty good chance of hitting something you don't want to hit. Not to mention the sound.
I think this was prepared by what Amy found out
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the,
because I.
'Cause she
thought we were talking about
cut-
22.
Yeah,
she contacted the DNR, I know that,
She did.
before she prepared this.
yeah, and I did talk to the conservation officers at downtown. I called down to St. Paul and talked to them before I ever came to council and asked, what can we do, what shouldn't we do, what procedures, there's something they can do, that sort of thing, before I ever came to talk to you
I'm not
guys.
seeing
But
shotgun. What item number are you saying
Number
for
4.
12 gauge?
It only
Well,
says
four,
shotgun.
shotgun, just says shotgun.
somewhere in here said 12 gauge.
We're looking at the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's
Yeah, we
number
just can't
4.
find where it says 12 gauge.
Yeah,
Just says
specific
shotgun.
Oh, sorry.
Specific
you're-
caliber is not called out.
Yeah, I thought we
I mean,
agreed with it.
I think if you're-
Shorts.
Well, if you're going at it with birdshot out of a 22, I think, no?
Full rifle.
Okay.
As I say, I think they're saying the 22 is qualified as a rifle.
Mhm.
So the reason why they're saying a shotgun is because they don't want a rifle projectile being shot within city limits, and that's what your city ordinance
Because
says.
it goes a lot
as well.
further.
However, if it would be stipulated, this is me putting my other hat on, if it would be stipulated 22 caliber long rifle only being used, which I'm guessing is what you would use,
Correct.
that would be more than adequate in that. You don't want a shotgun going off in the city, because I don't want to take those calls. We'll get those calls constantly.
And
You can hear it across town.
Yeah, you'll hear it across town.
Exactly.
That seems really odd to me that they would even,
So we can change that.
Mention
right?
that.
Because we can,
because you guys use the 22 out at the sewer pond and stuff too, right, for stuff? I don't see why it would have to be a shotgun.
okay,
There's also some special ammo that's made for 22 that makes it quieter,
Yeah.
and we'll get that too.
so,
Yeah, 22 is not nowhere near as loud as a.
And at 22, you don't have to worry about the projectile issues as with any other rifle. I mean, the only thing you have to worry about is a ricochet type issue, but you have to worry about that with a shotgun with bird shot too, so.
They just don't go as far usually. The
No.
Shotgun doesn't
Yeah.
shoot as
So
far.
it's better 50 cal still out.
Yeah, the 223 rounds just aren't gonna do it.
I'm bringing my 20 gauge, that doesn't.
I would be specific in that you put 22 long rifle.
Yeah.
is
so
what
you
want.
could approve this resolution with that change.
Because if you put just 22, technically a .223 would be
So it'd be hunters may only hunt with a
.22
.22
long rifle.
long rifle.
Why do you want to specify
Caliber.
long rifle, if I may ask?
Caliber?
It's short, you know, that,
Because that's
As close as
that's
they
the
are.
name of the caliber.
The rifle itself is a 22 long rifle.
oh,
It is the caliber of the gun.
Yeah.
Now, the round that the projectile that you're putting into is they have the shorts, like what we're talking about, the little
yeah.
Yeah.
half size. That is the round that's going into the 22 caliber rifle, long rifle.
Oh, okay.
If you do a 22 regular rifle, then it's like a .223 or a .227.
It's like a rifle.
I can
Yeah,
do my 224
Yeah, 'cause
Valkyrie.
long rifle-
So that's why you want to be specific in saying the long rifle, which is it's a weird name to call it because it's actually a short rifle.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you know so much about this.
I hunt and I have to deal with these questions when people call these in, so.
I know, I'm kidding you. So you would have to approve the ordinance first, and then the resolution with that change.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 2019-04, an ordinance regulating discharge of firearms.
And I'll second.
All right,
So we're gonna do
go
discussion.
to discussion, yeah.
Okay. So what did all the neighbors say around when this was brought up?
They don't have to get approval.
I say the one right next door to the north is fine with it. The one next door to the south watches us try to shoot at them with the pellet gun now and just sits there and watches. The ones across the street are all on board. In fact, the one on the corner across the street would love to be able to do the shooting. We're like, nope, can't.
I'm sure he would, he likes hunting.
Yep. So other than that, I don't know.
Nathan Jersey.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, Lloyd,
All right,
I'll vote aye. Ben,
Aye.
Kirby,
Aye.
and Tom.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And then the next item is the resolution declaring a special hunting season.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2019-08, resolution declaring a special hunting season with the addition of the change on item number 4 to a 22 long rifle.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, Ben,
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Tom,
Aye.
Kirby,
Aye.
and Lloyd.
all right.
Motion passes 5-0.
So today, I don't have anything for your package, but I just want to bring this up for discussion and get a ball rolling here, hopefully. So earlier this year, we created a truck committee to start looking into the purchase of a new tender. Reason why this came up, we were looking at replacing our current tender 12. Biggest issue with that is it's got a manual transmission, therefore many people can't drive it, and those that can drive it, most of them can't drive it safely. So that's causing an issue. The other issues that have been coming up is, so it's 22 years old right now, it needs some engine work and some work on the pump. My guys who know more about that stuff than I do said probably $10,000 to $15,000 to get it back to where it needs to go. Our truck replacement schedule is generally between 20 and 25 years. We don't put an exact number on them necessarily because when issues like this come up, it might just be smarter just to go out and get things accomplished rather than, well, let's just put another 10 grand into it for the next 3 years and now I bought a new tender by building this one up. Looking at some prices online for selling this particular one, I'm thinking we can maybe get between 10 and 20,000. These are kind of a unique type truck in that they serve a purpose other than just fire departments. Pavement company needs them, townships need them, cities need them. They haul water, they haul sludge, they'll haul whatever places need them to haul and stuff. So there is a resale on this specific truck, more so than there is actually a fire engine. So the two fundamental options that I told the truck committee to look at are, one, a standalone tender, which is what we have 2 of right now. Basically that carries water back and forth to where we need to go. It does still have a small pump on it, it can still pump water to a small little fire. The other one is a tender pumper combination. Obviously, price goes up when you start adding additional names and nomenclature to it, as well as upkeep costs and equipment costs and stuff like that. The truck committee's recommendation was to just go with the standalone tender at this point, until we, start pricing things out. Now, if the prices start getting similar in price, then things might change a little bit. The standalone tender would still have a pump on it. It's just not an ISO NFPA qualified pump, so it's under 750 gallons per minute. So it doesn't count for our fire flow needs and things along those lines. However, I've been learning a lot about that recently. Technically, we can count all of Waverly's engines for our fire flow, so we'll never need another engine unless we build 2 Carver contractor buildings connected as one. So doing a little bit of research with our preferred manufacturer for this is Midwest Fire. They're out of Laverne, Minnesota, down south, right by the Iowa border. There's basically 2 options to move forward. One is to either go out for bid, where I would probably elicit Midwest Fire to create bids and specs, and that would get sent out as a normal bid process. The other option is to go through a consortium called HGAC, which we used with our last engine. If we go with that consortium, we don't have to go out to bid, because we're basically paying to get the best price that's already out there, and they roll that fee into the cost of the tender, so it looks like nothing really happened, essentially.
Which you did before.
Yep.
You did it with the last truck.
Yep, we did it with the engine. It did work really well, because if we go out to bid, there's lawyers that need to look at bids, and we would be bound to take the lowest bid, even if we don't like the truck, unless we have some mitigating factor to say, Reason why we want to go with Midwest is our other newest tender that we have no problems with. Midwest, they build tenders. That's what they do. So they're a very good manufacturer of them, and they do them for reasonable costs as well. The cost that, talking with the rep down there, we'd be looking for a standalone tender, depending on what kind of options and stuff we put on, about $200,000. If it goes to a tender pumper, maybe $250,000. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I guess I'm kind of looking for direction from the council. If you want me to continue on looking at the HGAC option, and also just to kind of give you guys info so that it doesn't come as a surprise when I come, hey, I need to spend $250,000, yay. We do have the money in the budget without any problem whatsoever. We'll just pay cash for the thing. And we'll still have plenty of reserves in there as well after talking with Wendy and stuff. So it'll make things safer for us. Everybody will be able to drive all of our trucks without having to hurt their left leg or crash.
If you don't go with the tender pumper now, you're going to regret that in 10 years or 5 years?
So I have to speak on what the truck committee says.
What was the terminology that they used for the truck tender?
Tension.
Tension.
A tension. Yeah.
Let's call it that.
Yeah, okay, the tension. It's hard to say what things are gonna look like 10 to 15 years down the road. If I had a magic ball and I could see and I could manipulate what would happen, us and Waverly would join together. We would be fine with 3 engines. The crummy thing about having a tension is if for some reason that truck has to act as an engine, now I lose a water carrier. If for some reason I need a pumper and that one's already carrying water, I lose an engine. So it's kind of a catch-22. We have good mutual aid partners at this point where we don't have a problem getting trucks out there. Sometimes we have a problem getting personnel to a scene, but trucks, we've never had an issue. I mean, if we have a fire right now and I call 3 departments, I'm gonna have 4 engines there. Or I should. And tenders, you just keep calling out. I can have 20 tenders here in probably, a half hour, essentially, so. For the price difference, I mean, if you're looking at a fiscal type thing, the tension is a good thing. However, there's also upkeep on that truck, because we would have to get we'd have to buy more hose, We'd have to do pump testing every year with it, whereas with the non-NFPA compliant one, you don't have to. But we still have a pump that can still move water if we have to. And that's about $1,000 to $1,500, depending on the pump makeup and stuff per year. So over the course of the life of it, there's another $20,000, $25,000 I'm gonna spend on it. Like I said, if I could manipulate the crystal ball, I would say a tender is gonna be great. Looking 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we may go to just one tender. We're not there yet because we still have so much outlying area. But when our next one comes due, we'll probably have to take a real close look at, doesn't even make sense to have 2 tenders at this point. Right now it does, just because of the makeup of our service area. But as the city expands and more hydrants get placed, maybe 1 tender's all we need, so.
So it sounds like at this point in time, the tender is probably the most economic, viable solution.
Yeah, I think so,
And especially since you're trying to roll them over within a 20-year period generally.
yeah.
So you're looking at keeping it 20 years anyway and getting another one, and at that point, if we've grown that much, you would probably go with the tender engine or
Yeah.
even just another engine.
Or just another engine
Yeah.
altogether and
Yeah.
stuff, so. Tenders are actually the cheapest trucks that we can buy on the fire service. If you recall back when we bought the last engine, that was about $500,000. To buy that exact engine today are probably close to $620. Whereas this one, pretty bare bones. We're looking, you know, $200 to $220 maybe, depending if they want to put bells and whistles on it and make it do things all by itself.
So what's the capacity in that?
2,000 gallons of water. Yep. Most of the time they'll have like a 400 gallon per minute pump or so is what we'll spec for it probably.
So basically just runs out there, dumps water into your tank and your holding tank and comes back in and fills and goes back out and dumps and comes in.
Essentially, yeah. And it's
And then, what was that outfit,
HGAC,
HGAC.
Houston Galveston Area Consortium, I believe is what it stands for.
It sounds like that's a better approach if you can keep the attorneys out of it, because they're all.
Well, even with the HGAC, we'd still have to have the attorney review the HGAC. Maybe not, because we already did it
We
once.
already did it once and yeah.
So maybe we wouldn't.
I
We'd
think
have
it's the
to,
same
we'd have to
contract.
work with Midwest, I'm
Yeah.
sure, but, yeah, that's the route that I would prefer to go. But if you guys wanna go and out for bid and see what the cheapest truck out there is, oh boy. But and that's why this HGAC has become very popular in fire departments for that very specific reason, because fire departments know which manufacturers make good trucks because we talk to other fire departments. And you don't want one from New York State that's gonna underbid Midwest Fire that we don't have any reviews or anything on, and we're like, on the paper, it's the exact same, we don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Now we gotta spend 3 days driving the stupid thing back from New York, so. And then when something goes wrong with it, we have to drive back to New York.
I like that idea.
So do I wanna get approval to, I don't wanna get approval to purchase yet, to go out for bid and spec using an HGAC, right? So I guess that's what I'd be looking for, is a motion to go out to spec and build for a new tender through HGAC with Midwest Fire.
Sure, I'll make that motion. Second.
I tried to make it easy for you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Is there any more discussion? No? All right, I'll vote aye. Tom?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Herbie?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Should have more in a couple of months then to hopefully put a down payment on, so.
Deb?
This is just standard practice. I just need a motion for you to say that the city does not want to waive the monitoring limits on our municipal tort liability.
We've always not waived, we've done the do not waive, because that limits what they can collect from our insurance. If you waive them, you basically are allowing them to collect $2 million or more, and most of the time you have to carry another policy to cover some of that. And so we always, through our league insurance, we always do the do not waive.
Well, I'll make a motion that the city of Montrose does not waive monetary limits on municipal tort.
Second?
Okay, any other discussion? All right, Lloyd,
Aye.
Kirby,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
I'll vote aye, and Ben.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And then I put this next item on because our next workshop would be on May 27th, and that is a holiday. So what staff discussed today was, should we just not have one in May, and if something would really come up, then we'll schedule one? Want to do it that way?
Yep.
Wasn't that the plan, that
That's the
unless there was
plan.
something pressing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Do we need a motion on that?
Cancel the workshop.
You just have to post it that it's canceled.
I think I'll just post that it's canceled.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
You're doing city engineer too?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll wait for you.
This is just, again, housekeeping. Sean is working on the permit, the limited use permit, and I gave you a copy inside here, and what it is to grant the city permission to work within the area of the right-of-way of Trunk Highway 25 during the project, so. And Highway 12 during the project, so. He just needs you to approve that, so he
I'll
can
make
get
a
going on
motion
it.
to approve resolution 2019-09.
Second?
All right, any discussion? All right, I'll vote aye. Tom?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Kirby?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
I'm playing now.
All right, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to bring up the Turning property, they came to a council meeting to clean up that wastewater plant.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know, is that what the council wants to do, you want us to clean it up? I mean, is it ours?
Nope.
I don't think we should.
Deb, did I give you a copy of the original agreement with them? Remember I had it from the 60s or
Do you
40s?
have an agreement with them, or you wanted to make one up?
No, there was one.
There is one, it's from,
Yeah, I don't have a copy, I gave her my copy.
Oh my.
That's what we have on that piece of property.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah.
Yep. That's an agreement with the Turnings on that property. Was it 52 they come up with it?
So basically it's saying they're giving us permission to construct it, operate it, maintain it, and repair it. So does maintain it mean we have to clean it
Well,
out?
that's our line underground, that's the one that goes to the wastewater plant, but the ditch, is the ditch the city's?
And where do we have the ditch on a tile go?
Well,
No, it's not tile, it's a sewer
We have an
line.
underground sewer line going through there,
Yeah.
that's what feeds the plant.
It's the sewer line, not a
Yeah,
ditch.
there's water here just goes in.
Yeah, there's a ditch, but it's, and they say they're losing a bunch of their farmland because it's growing out.
So I
Let's
guess-
take all the trees and stuff down.
My question is does water from the city run in that ditch? I mean, is it coming from some of our developments, or?
There's one, I think there's a tile that comes across from Rositka's land.
Where does the one that comes from Billy, back through by Billy's, from the mobile home park? and from this-
That comes through and runs that way too, but is that the city's or is that a county ditch?
Well,
There's a natural waterway.
Originally it had to be a county ditch.
but our water from the pond over by House Loddens and all over there, that water comes under Highway 12 into that little ditch or creek behind the old Casey's, all the way through by Billy's and into that field. So is it considered, is it considered water from the city? I mean, I just don't want them to come back, I don't want them to get mad at us or
Right.
something. That's, I guess the question is, what's
Have you checked with the county to see if that is in fact listed as a county ditch?
in their field? I don't think it's a county ditch in
I
that
don't
field.
think so either, 'cause it's not.
And I don't think this one back here is listed as a county ditch. It's not numbered, that because the one behind the old Casey's is actually on private land, that's on the mobile home park land.
Well, a lot of your county ditches though are on
Yeah, but I
private
don't,
land,
I don't know that
But you
that's
know,
a,
a along that ditch there that's so close to the solar panels that they can't farm in there anymore.
Well, it's moving out every year on them, so.
Can't see that.
Yes.
How bad is it?
It's a lot of little trees and stuff to take down.
Yeah.
So if we go in there with our Bobcat, can we just take them right
No,
out or not?
they're bigger than that, it's so wet in there all the time, is what they're saying, if they can't get close, but we're not running any water.
Spray them too, they won't grow out then, because I had this problem out west in one of my pieces, and I just sprayed them, kind of kept them in check.
Spray the trees and
And the willows, that's what they are.
probably.
Or if you're gonna spray it, don't you have to find out where that water and what that water's actually doing?
It's just, it's going to the marsh, goes to the big marsh.
Yeah, so the DNR's probably gonna have an issue if you spray them.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
they have certain.
I don't know how that works,
Certain
but-
kind of sprays.
Certain stuff you can use.
So they want the trees and weeds or whatever cleaned up from that drainage ditch.
So well, if we,
And it's all wet in there, so we're gonna do nothing to get stuck. Gotta go in there
By
On
hand,
foot.
do it on foot,
So
do it
each
by
one-
hand.
and it'll take forever.
and if it's cleaned out, will it go back to being just a small little area, or is it gonna be as
It's
big as it
still
is
wet.
now?
I mean, I don't know. Depends on the year, I guess. A wet year, it's gonna be real wet. And
So
dry.
what is cleaning it out gonna accomplish then, bottom line?
I don't know, they came to a council meeting and sat down with everybody and
Because
they said we'd check into it.
didn't our, yeah, Sean, did he say it's really not?
It could be ours, or, you know, I mean, I don't know. We've never had to do anything there before, have we? That I know of.
No, I-
And the only time I seen them clean it out was shortly before the summer field went in there.
The village montrose.
And maybe the solar.
How many people lived in town at that time? 12?
1952, yeah.
Could be.
So they're saying they're losing some of their
Farmland.
farmland right now because of the trees and stuff.
Well, it's so wet in there, they can't get as close as they used to. Because our ditch goes through there. You know, the wet year, it's gonna be wet, but is it our ditch?
The only way to make that whole area so it wouldn't be wet would be to expand the ditch so that it runs better anyways, so.
Or you'd have to put you'd have to put a big tile and put a big inlet. And then go to the,
Completely underground.
over to the pond and then basically have a lift pump.
I think we put a tile in and it'd go underground, it's all downhill to that pond.
Yeah, we wouldn't have to put a
We would
lift
put a
in.
pump in.
Okay.
Is it,
Some of it is tiled through the field, but through the city's property it's tiled.
so is
It's
he,
just from Highway 25, you can see where it comes across 25.
Yep.
And it runs, it's above ground to our fence, and then it's underground.
is he talking about the city's property or his property?
His property.
Because here, Sean says, that being said, there is no recorded document specifically for a drainage utility easement through the properties.
but this says it is.
That's for the underground pipe.
Right.
Looks like.
He says that document was granted for the construction, operation, and maintenance of a drain tile. The easement description is very general, crude, and has not defined width to it, but it seems to follow fairly closely with the drainage path.
Which the drainage might have been there forever. I mean,
At least from the 50s.
mhm.
When was the village?
In 52, that ditch was put in there? And I
Yep,
used to do field
52.
work in there in 56 and it was never there.
The city had that easement in 52. I don't know if it's for their wastewater line is what I think that was for, this,
Yeah.
because that lift
It's funny
station
they got
sits there.
52 on there because there was nothing there when I used to work that field up. Back in, 54, 55, and 56.
I think that's what they're saying, is they used to be able to work all the way straight across it.
And
And
now
now
it's
it's-
dug
now it's-
itself in there.
Now it's gotten it to be such a drainage because we've Well, he says in here we've improved our drainage, which we did do.
Yeah.
And he said that now it's causing more water through there, so it's making it unfarmable. So I think what he meant was there always was the tiles or the drainage area through there, but they were able to work over it.
Walk around it.
So I don't know.
Up to you guys, what you want done.
I guess I put some of it on them though too, because you know, as you get bigger and bigger equipment, most of the time, guys don't want to get that stuff close to the fence lines and to the tree lines and whatnot, and they just, you know, and it's harder to maneuver around things, like when you were in the 50s and you were there, you probably had a 14-foot at best.
10 foot.
10 foot, okay.
And,
You know, so I mean, you were working every ounce of land and you were getting right next to the edge, but I mean, now when you're
Well,
dealing
that
with
wasn't even there when, because I used to,
but I'm saying like next to the roads, next to your fence lines and things like that. Now when you're dealing with a 62, 64, 70 foot, I mean, you're not.
I don't care about 3 feet.
Exactly. I guess I put it on to them too, why weren't they maintaining the property? If they were concerned with, you know, tree growth and things like that, why were they not, you know, nipping it in the butt right away?
yeah, instead of letting them grow so big, yeah.
I guess, the way I see it, I don't feel that the city is in need of doing anything.
So, yeah, I feel too.
Does everybody agree on that?
Is there a way to move the drain line at all? Is that not possible? Can't run it down the ditch?
it's kind of natural through the field. I mean, that's,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't even see a compromise here, you know? It's either you do or you don't.
once we start, we're gonna do that all the time.
Yeah, right. Mhm. And those willows grow pretty fast.
Right.
Well, I don't see what taking the trees out is gonna accomplish if it's still, I mean,
Yeah, it's
It's
a little
gonna be
wet
wet.
anyway. It's
It's
gonna
yeah,
be wet.
exactly, it's gonna be wet no matter what, the water's
We're not
still there no
changing
matter
it.
what.
Yeah, because the trees ain't holding the water back.
I don't think it would.
I guess I have a tendency to agree with Ben. We have to leave it alone.
We need
Do you need a motion? Do you want a motion, Mike?
I suppose, because
Yeah.
then if he talks to him, he can say the city
This is
council
what the
discussed
council
it in
decided.
motion.
I will make a motion for the Public Works to stay off of the turning property and for the city to not investigate this any farther.
I'll second.
All right, Ben,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Kirby,
Aye.
I'll vote aye, and Lloyd,
All right.
motion passes 5-0.
Next item.
Oh,
Next item I have is Emerson Avenue. That narrow spot there. I got some quotes from our engineer, nothing in Carver and stone or anything, but I'd recommend we mill and overlay and curb and gutter be option 2.
now is that gonna include, you know, we gotta make that road heavier than just the regular neighborhood road because.
Yep, I told him
It's
trucks,
got
trucks.
facilities and stuff on it. Actually, I used to belong to Fitzsimmons, I think he donated that
It was a
land.
gravel road. It was a gravel road for a long time.
Yeah.
And
You're gonna, they'll widen it, mill it, overlay it, and put curb on it. And then eventually we're gonna have to replace the sewer and stuff underneath Second Street and Center Street by the ballpark. And then the other part of Emerson, that can all be done and curbed and guttered all at the same time.
Yeah.
In one section.
But now we're just talking about doing just this one section
From the ball field to Mindy.
to India.
That's the narrow section. We widen it, make it as wide as the rest of the roads, and curb and gutter it. It should
But
have
then beyond Mindy, it's still gonna be narrow.
It's
No.
not narrow, it's just at that point.
just
it's-
that one
it's like,
point.
I don't know
Is that
how
where
many
the
feet, but it's
sidewalks
way
and
narrow and it constantly is falling apart there and.
because there's no curb and gutter to hold it, wants to fall down that hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's right by the condominium.
yeah.
So that should take care of the whole problem, but it should be.
How much will be, the residents along that way, how much property will they lose?
They won't lose anything, the only people that'll lose property is
The ditch
the
of the
condominium,
condos.
the ditch. And the hydrant's already set back for the widening of the road, so. And we've already had a complaint from their maintenance guy that our road is out in the grass and he wants to start cleaning whatever he wants to pick up the blacktop channels.
Yeah, I think if we don't do it this way, we're gonna, do what we were thinking, 10 years from now.
They overlaid that how many years ago? 6,
Yeah,
something like that, and it's all busted up again. And they patched it a couple times.
Mhm.
remember we budgeted 100,000 to do it, so this would come in really close, it's 108, 109, so that's pretty darn close.
So,
Did we get the bids yet on that?
No, it hasn't gone up for bids, this is all preliminary.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just,
So, I want to be able to tell them option 2, and they can get the rest of it figured out.
I do
Yep.
like option 2.
option 2.
and we checked on engineering, that looked like it was gonna be right around 17%
Yeah, give them all
probably.
a copy.
Yeah, 17%.
You want a copy, Kirby?
I had shared.
Is
Oh,
that,
I thought-
Oh, the email.
is that normal, Wendy,
Yeah,
17%?
17%,
Yeah.
yes. That's what we meant was to. All right, so you're just gonna proceed and go out the bids and all that now?
Yeah, and you have to make a motion to do all that. And we're gonna take care of it this year.
You should make a motion with.
I'll make a
option.
motion to go with Emerson Avenue North Street Improvement option 2.
Second.
Any more discussion? All right, I'll vote aye. Lloyd,
All right.
Kirby,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
I'm sorry, who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Ben?
Thank you, Ben.
I think, can you maybe amend your motion, because I think it should say, and to allow
To go out for
Wayne
bids.
to go out for,
Send a bidding
for,
process.
what do you call it,
Bid
for the
process.
design and the, yeah, the bidding and the
Design.
design and the bidding
Inspected.
specs, yeah. That's what I was trying to think of, citizen specs, so that you might as well get started on it.
Want to just add that?
I just added it, that's fine.
Yeah.
And everybody said yes, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and Wayne?
Then, summer helpers.
Oops.
Did you get some hired?
No,
Yeah.
the Public Works, ex-Public Works Director from Howard Lake already took a job at Annandale.
Because we waited too long?
So, I mean, he applied both ways at the same time, and they called him right back.
Yeah.
So we do have 2 applications. Yeah, so I can offer the 2 guys the job, see if they'll take it.
Are they pretty well qualified, or are they?
Yeah, one's a college kid, he goes back and
Oh,
forth.
okay.
The other guy lives over here on Center, so.
Is that Joshua? Which one is that?
Well, Joshua's the one that's a college kid.
Okay.
I don't have the other one listed, because
Right, right.
I just found out today.
So we better hire them before we lose them too?
Yeah. So,
Make a motion for Wayne to go ahead and hire 2 summertime seasonal employees.
I'll second.
All right, Lloyd,
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Tom?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Kirby?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Anything else?
Then I've got the gardens we have out in Rolling Meadows.
Yep.
People that had used them last year didn't clean up after themselves. It's corn stalks in there. I think we should stipulate in there for next year, for this year, that we have to go there in there and clean them out, that we charge them for it.
Yeah, we talked about that last
Yeah.
Friday, that on the form that they fill out, we could,
Add something.
has anybody filled out anything yet?
Yeah, I think we've got almost all of them
Five
rented,
have
or
already been
5
filled out?
out of the 10.
This is what we came up with. Jess, Wendy, and I discussed it. We didn't have an opportunity to discuss it with you, but I'll throw it out there and see what you think. They did not clean them up this past time that they used them, and they're bad. So we thought of putting in the application form a deposit. And it says in there already that they have to clean them up, but they're not doing it. We're gonna put in the form that they have to pay a deposit. We set up $100, because Public Works gets $100 an hour to clean, that's their maintenance fee for doing anything. And then we also said that we put in there that if you do not clean them up, you will not be able to have a garden plot following year.
And if you do clean them up, you'll get your money back.
Yep, and if you get your money, you clean up.
Are any of these repeat ones that were there before?
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
They have to clean them up.
Well,
I don't
some of them
know.
are real good about it. you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know which
Some
ones
are.
have signed up, if they're
Yeah.
repeat ones or not, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure we could go back and figure out who had the spot and
I think she said they are the same people and they're taking 2 plots.
There's some, yeah, right now it's 5 different individuals, but of those 5, 2 people want 2 plots. So if nobody else signs up by the deadline, then we'll allow them to have 2.
The one lady has had 2 for almost, I think, every year since we've put it out there. And she does a good job with hers. Hers is all cleaned out.
Yeah, I like the deposit idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so
that's
we'll
why we
do,
brought it to you.
we'll clean it up this year and till it, and then after this is their responsibility.
To till it?
I don't even think we should have to till it.
Well,
Oh,
we till it every year.
We till it
That's
every
what- That's the way they've been doing it, so.
I know, I guess,
I mean, if I could get that back where I live, and they till it, you get almost free water and a
Yeah.
spot.
I mean, that'd be nice. You can come till my backyard and let me hook up a garden hose to
Yeah,
fire hydrant and,
you water all night, I think.
yep.
I don't know, as high as the pond is, I don't think we'll have the water at all this year.
Cities always water, or always tilled that up there, so I don't know if you guys don't want it. I mean, if you're gonna have a garden, you should be able to do your own maintenance of it.
Or you till them all at the same time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right away.
Right.
Yeah, that's a one-time, we'll get out
So if we
there.
just clean it out and don't till it, just let them till it this year, then
Well, they're-
I'll be the bad guy again.
I think they're all used to having the city tilling it.
Yeah, I think because we don't have that in there yet,
Yeah,
we should do it this
do it
year.
one more time then.
Yep, I'm okay with changing the terminology for the next year, that adding the $100 deposit and the city doesn't till it.
Okay, anything else?
I do under other, or do you have anything else to?
I should be done here. so.
You should be?
There's
Are you?
nothing-
Are you? Are you? Because you said you should
Do
be.
you have anything else?
I have a lot of stuff, but I'll wait till another day.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I have something under other, it just came up last Friday. Mayor Otto and I did discuss this already. And I think Councilmember Marzalek and I talked about it too at the chamber meeting. 3 of us did, actually. The Apple property well site acquisition is very close. And they want to bring the purchase agreement to the next council meeting in May because Justin has to get the paperwork done for it's a PFA loan, correct, Wendy?
Yep.
He has to have it done by the end of June. And so with that said, the city attorney, Dan Wilson, and Justin were going back and forth, and it is their recommendation that we do not bring this to planning and zoning because it won't make the timeline if we do that. And the city attorney said, I have her email somewhere, that we don't have to because it's, here it is. This is what she says, I'll read it to you. Well, it's up to the city council what they want to do. But I think, number 1, it makes sense to waive planning commission review based on this not having to do anything with the comp plan since it's going to be a city-owned well site. And number 2, I think it may have to be waived to meet Justin's timeline of closing by 6/28. So there's a resolution here, and it will be presented to you in the May meeting. And what it is approving the purchase of real property and dispensing with statutory requirements reviewed by Planning Commission. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention and get your feel for it because I need to know from you if you're okay with that for the May meeting.
Yes,
Well,
I'm
then,
okay
have
with it.
we reached the price then on that land?
Yes, we did.
They did.
And Dan got a very good price.
And they're gonna survey it Friday. Justin called me this morning. They're gonna survey it because they want to plant there. They're gonna stake it. Then we have to go pound in metal stakes in case somebody hits one of the other ones. That's gonna be the property.
And that was 7 acres, right?
Yeah.
7
And
acres.
that was
6.915.
Yes, and so, on that note, the other thing too is, we're going to purchase that land outright through our water fund, because there's 2 options. You can include it in the PFA loan, But the only amount of the land that you can include is the portion where the well house and the well will actually sit at this time, which is only about an acre. We're buying the 6 or 7 acres because at some point down the road, the city's gonna need a water plant
And another well.
and another well. And so rather than waiting that many years out, we're just gonna purchase it now, have the land, be done with it. So we could, if we wanted to do it through the PFA, with the PFA loan, we could only be approved at this point for the 1 acre. And the other 6 acres, we would have to just like, we'd have to buy it outright, but we could reimburse ourselves with a resolution when the time comes to build the water plant. My thoughts is, how many of us are gonna be around at that point to even know to do
I
that?
don't remember.
So we've got the money in the water fund for what the price that we're gonna be paying. That's, I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't just pay it outright and be done with it and not mess around with it. There's no sense in paying interest on something, you know, that we don't need to, so.
Well, and if, just another very important point I need to make to you is if you have any reservations about it at all, please make sure you talk to me or I can put you through to Amy because this has to pass by a 4/5 vote.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
okay. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
How about Limmerman, is that still on a go, or is that on hold, or? I see
No.
he's got a sign there now, he's starting to sell.
He's still
So-
working with Apples.
Yeah, I wonder how come he's got a sign there for sale, 48 acres?
That's on the north side of the house,
Yeah.
the property though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's over,
No, that's right on, you just passed where we're gonna buy the
Yeah,
slough there,
it's
there's
just-
a
Yeah.
big sign there.
Oh,
It's that field.
oh,
I don't
because I know
know.
he had one on the north side of their
Well-
house and stuff, but I didn't know he was, I haven't been out
They
there
went
for
up
a while.
like a week and
Yeah, it said
Oh.
48 acres, and wasn't that about what they're gonna build there by Pheasant Hills?
I have no clue. I haven't heard from him.
No, haven't heard a word.
Maybe he's just working with Apple to see what kind of bites he can get on it.
I think that's probably what he is doing, yes.
I would assume.
But he's kind of a shyster guy anyway, so.
I am well aware of that.
Yeah, you don't need to go far to find that out, but.
I just talked to him in church on Sunday because he wanted us to annex all that land in and we foot the bill for it. So,
Well, our attorney said we should annex it separate anyway because
yeah,
ours
it
is
has to
coming
be,
in.
it has to
Yeah.
be annexed separately,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, anything else?
No, I was gonna ask you, Deb, you know, I got a email here from Catherine, and some of these here complaints, aren't these old ones, aren't these, or are
I don't
they
have them
repeat?
because she doesn't email me anymore, so I need to get them from someone.
100 Hill Street, yes, is the car,
They're all the
which
same.
you're looking at, yes.
Yeah,
121 is the,
but are we doing
The pilot
anything
do it.
about this?
yes, this is the same one that,
Are we sending a cops out there to issue
No,
tickets?
no, our engineer is working on this one because that's where they did all the back.
Mhm.
That's the city engineer and the planner.
And we
which
just
is-
talked about that again today.
Which,
Yeah.
yep, that'll be going to, and then 142, yes, Deb's got that one too.
But we haven't done anything with it.
Yeah. the-
They're
our-
being worked on.
They are being
currently.
worked on, the
Yeah,
engineer and
okay.
everybody's
I'm putting
working on
on,
it,
I'm
yes.
putting them on
But
hold for
aren't
this
we-
week
aren't
because we have the pickup of the
Right,
junk.
yep.
So I'm putting it on hold for a week.
Some of that stuff, I'm just gonna throw this out there, but some of that stuff that she emails about is rather picky. The fish house down in Meadowbrook, I think what happens is they bring it off the lake and they park it for maybe a day or 2 days or a week until they can get it into storage. And the minute it parks there, she sends you an email. And by the time Deb goes out in the morning and looks for it, it's not even there. So some of
One
the,
year it was there quite a while because.
yeah, but then she sent them a letter and now they don't keep it there anymore. So I think it's just a matter of when she sees it, she quick sends an email and then by the time we look, it's gone. So,
The ad for your assistant, that's going out, right?
That's strange for yes.
Yes. So then that will help. Yeah, take care of Kathy.
yeah.
She can apply for it.
Yeah.
Kirby.
You'll have to do
She
something, but I want
She
to
was
know
gonna be our
what
attorney.
Wait,
Or- or
What,
enforcer.
Anything else?
Yeah, because you're
Actually,
actually more than
we
what
do
your
know
job
that Dale
is.
offered her to do that. All right, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
All motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're done. Thank you.
You get to do that. Okay, thank you.
I second.
Oh, okay.
What do you want, motion?
George, did I make the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, now